the 4 groups to determine the final 4 players to contest the first prize of £30,000. And O'Sullivan is first in with that red after a rather loose break-off from Hirani. 44 years of age. In the eyes of many, the greatest player of all time, but that wasn't so great. Going into the pack and going in off the edge of the cluster of reds. Just the one title on O'Sullivan's CV this season. That was the Invitational Shanghai Masters. Kishan Hirani is 28 years of age, turned pro a couple of years ago, doing so via success at Q School. Still finding his way as a professional. Currently ranked at 93 in the world.
Kishan Hirani won.
His best ranking performance is the last 32 showing at the German Masters. O'Sullivan's CV, of course, is rather more formidable. A record equaling 36 ranking titles. He needs just one more to eclipse Stephen Hendry. Of course, this isn't a ranking event. But I think you'd have got pretty long odds on O'Sullivan not having won a ranking tournament at the start of this season. 2 seasons ago, he won 5 in a single season, which at the time was a record, which only 3 other players, Selby, Ding and Hendry, had achieved. But of course, this season, Judd Trump has surpassed them all with 6 ranking titles in a single season, including victory over O'Sullivan in the final in Belfast, Northern Ireland, before Christmas. That's a poor safety from O'Sullivan. 4-ball kiss on the red. Might have left something a little more easy for Hirani, having got that safety wrong. Nothing straightforward there for the Welshman, certainly. It's amazing how sometimes you can profit from your own mistake. O'Sullivan played a poor safety, but didn't leave anything easy. Look at how Hirani was hampered there in attempting that red. He's missed it, and he's left O'Sullivan with a chance.
One. Eight. Nine.
The other players in this group, by the way, Group 10, Chris Wakelin and Michael Giorgio, the former shootout champion. They'll be in action next up here on table 1.
12.
Over on table 2 today, by the way, you can follow Rob Milkins, Mike Dunn, Tom Ford and Ian Burns. That's Group 15. The action, as always, on the Eurosport player on the opposite table.
19. 20. 25. 26.
'Yes, it's been quite a while since O'Sullivan has been in competitive action. Of course,
31.
because he's been relatively quiet this season, he didn't qualify for
32.
the Players' Championship, the second leg of the Coral series of events for the top 16 players on the one-year list. He didn't have enough ranking points to play in that, and of course he won it last season. And in turn, because of that, of course, he's not in the upcoming Tour Championship, which takes place just before the rescheduled World Championship
39.
at the Crucible. That's for the top 8 players this season. Tournaments that in the
40.
past he's, of course, excelled at. Last season he won both the Players and the Tour Championship. And it doesn't matter how good you are, and O'Sullivan is as good as it
47.
gets. You do need match practice to be able to produce your very
48.
best. The standard is so high these days that if you do have an off day, you're in danger from anyone inside the top 100. That's the strength of the modern game. So I'm sure O'Sullivan will have decided that he wanted to play in this
53.
tournament with one eye on the Crucible at the end of July, where he would
54.
be bidding for a 6th world title. 7 years after his 5th. That's quite a gap for a player of his caliber. But he's going well here. 54 the lead, so
59.
just this red to make the frame safe, barring snookers.
60.
'And of course, it all started with that poor safety, leaving Kishan Hirani a very awkward red.
67.
Hirani bridging over in order to try and pot it into the green pocket. He missed, left O'Sullivan in, and this is the result.
$68.
He may be in his 45th year,
73.
but there's no real sign that O'Sullivan's extraordinary skills have dimmed.
74.
Last season, he won 5 more big titles, including a record-breaking 7th UK. He has a record 7 Masters as well, 19 Triple Crown titles in all, which
79.
is more than anyone else, one more than Stephen Hendry,
80.
and of course in excess of 1,000 centuries. And he reached that magical mark in the final of the Players' Championship, in the very last frame of the Players' Championship against Neil Robertson last season. And this is pretty good for
85.
his first real opportunity to get his hand on the table. Went in
87.
off right at the start of the frame, but he's made the most of this second chance. Hirani can count himself a bit unlucky to be left such an awkward red,
90.
but he's certainly been punished for missing it.
$94. 99.
Well, what a start this is. We've had 18 centuries already. And there goes number 19.
105.
He's back and he's as good as ever. A statement of intent from O'Sullivan.
Ronnie O'Sullivan,
A brilliant
112
century
under
clearance to start the match. That wasn't too shabby, was it? And Kishan Hirani, if he didn't know already, and some of the same old stuff from Ronnie O'Sullivan. His first frame and a century. This is his first competitive action for more than 3 months for O'Sullivan, but you wouldn't have thought he'd been away with the way he cued in that first frame. Yes, he got a little bit lucky in not leaving Kishan Hirani a more straightforward red after playing a poor safety, but having got the opportunity to get back in, he made the most of it. Superb century. Total of 4 frames possible, of course, in every match. If one player wins the first 3, the 4th is not played. 3 points for the win. And if the 4 frames are shared, it's a point apiece. And of course, whoever finishes top of the group at the end of the 6 matches of the day, everyone plays everyone else, they will progress to the group winners stage, which starts on day 9. Over on table 2, Rob Milkins has taken the opening frame against Mike Dunn. No significant breaks, but Milkins winning the frame comfortably. Dunn not troubling the scorers. Just a reminder of the players who've already qualified for the last 16 stage of this event. Judd Trump, of course, world #1 world champion. Luca Brissell, Mark Joyce, Dave Gilbert, Ryan Day, Liang Wenbo, who was outstanding yesterday. Another great red from O'Sullivan. Plenty of action on the cue ball. Gary Wilson, Harvey Chandler are the 8 players through thus far. 2 more to go through today, of course. What a tremendous bit of cueing this is. Look at the action he got on the white. Well, there doesn't seem to be too much wrong with O'Sullivan's game. I'm sure he's been putting in plenty of practice, but of course there's no substitute for competition. And he'll want to be sharp in his build-up to the World Championship, which is just under 2 months away now. All being well.
6. 7.
Not ideal on the blue, wrong side of it and quite close to the cushion. So could only drop it in, leaving a slightly longer red than he would have liked. But he seems to have his eye in very early here, O'Sullivan. Which is the cue for an error. And that was partly because the red was that little bit trickier than it would have been had he managed to get the right side of the blue. Missed it by quite a way. He was on the stretch there. Well, again, Hirani looks to be out of luck here. The red into right centre is awkward, and It looks as though he'd be hampered with his cueing if he did attempt it. So just the safety.
Kishan Hirani 6.
And not the best safety either. Certainly didn't want to be hitting one of the baulk colours on the way back. Can't afford to do that against a guy of O'Sullivan's calibre who's just knocked in a century break, 112.
Foul. Ronnie O'Sullivan 4.
Couldn't really legislate for the in-off there, Kishan Hirani. He's not had
1.
the rub of the green so far. And he's probably going to need it in this match, you would think, if he's to cause a surprise.
Ronnie O'Sullivan
But
1.
there's a surprise. O'Sullivan misses the blue. I think that moustache rather suits him.
One.
Well, these are the opportunities that Hirani has really got to grab with both hands if he's to put O'Sullivan under pressure in what remains of this match. Take advantage of any errors from his opponent and score substantially from them if he can. And this isn't a bad chance. Black's currently a bit tied up, but he's got the pink to work with. Celebrated his 28th birthday on Tuesday, Hirani. I say celebrated, there obviously wouldn't have been much scope for celebration in the sterile conditions that
14.
These players obviously have to adhere to in order for this tournament to have been able to be staged. Strict testing of all the players before they were allowed to compete. Mercifully, all of the tests that have been done have come back negative. Very strict sanitation rules in place, of course. And they all had to have a swab up the nostril and earn some prize money. Well, that
15.
is a bad one from Hirani. Fairly straightforward pink. Pushed it to the far jaw. That's precisely what he didn't need to do, having been given the chance by O'Sullivan. Only 25 points to show.
1.
So O'Sullivan's miss on the blue, not proving to be expensive.
Seven. 8. 14. 15.
Table not straightforward, so Sullivan's got some work to do to turn this into a frame-winning chance. But like all of the great players, he is, of course, capable of engineering chances when there doesn't seem to be all that much on. Surely no one in the history of the game better in amongst the balls than O'Sullivan. His cue ball control is immaculate.
$28. 29.
And he does his damage in intimidatingly quick fashion. $28 in front then.
36.
He only needs 2 more reds.
37.
And he's guaranteed a point in winning this frame, but he'll put himself inside of all 3.
$44. 45.
No problem. O'Sullivan makes tricky shots look easy. And that surely sets the seal on frame 2. Well, Kishan Hirani had a chance. It was a rather bad miss on the pink
52.
to right centre.
Ronnie O'Sullivan.
And the red
52.
surely doesn't matter. Barring snookers, it's going to be 2-0 O'Sullivan. 44 the difference, only 35 there. So 3 snookers needed. Hirani perhaps looking just to get a bit more of a feel for the table. He hasn't had a lot of table time so far. And of course, while there's a red on the table, there's always the chance of a free ball, which would change things somewhat. And that's a snooker. Sullivan looking to swerve around the pink. There you see 3 4-point snookers required for Hirani as things stand. Good effort again. Just missed the snooker though, and here's a chance for O'Sullivan to pot the red and end the frame. unlikely you would think that Hirani's going to get the snookers that he needs, but at least with this little exchange on the final red, he's getting a bit more table time, although it's him who could be in a bit of bother here. I think perhaps he can just see the edge of the red. It's pretty tight though. Another good shot from O'Sullivan.
Foul. Ronnie O'Sullivan, 4 frame conceded. Frame, Ronnie O'Sullivan.
And Kishan Hirani immediately concedes. So a terrific action of Ronnie O'Sullivan. Paid the price once again. So the Welshman breaking off in frame 3, which of course he has to win to have any hopes of salvaging a draw in this opening match of Group 10. If O'Sullivan wins it, we won't need the 4th frame. We'll be straight into our second match between Chris Wakelin and Michael Giorgio. First meeting between these players. But it's over a year now since O'Sullivan won a tournament, the Tour Championship, so I'm sure he would love to go all the way this week and just get back into the winning habit again. Of course, he has won the Invitational Shanghai Masters, so I'm talking about ranking events. Something of a barren spell for him since winning the Tour Championship for his record equaling 36. This isn't ranking, but it's still an important tournament. That's why the players are here. And some of the very best as well. O'Sullivan aside, we have Trump, we have Selby, although of course he bowed out last night.
8.
Still some big hitters to come. Stuart Bingham, former world champion, reigning Masters champion. Ali Carter, multiple ranking titleist, there in action later in the tournament.
9.
Neil Robertson's here as well, so it's a pretty star-studded lineup for an event that, of course, originally wasn't on the calendar before circumstances which were completely unforeseen at the start of the year changed
16.
the direction not only of this sport but of all the others. But it's great to see snooker leading the way in re-emerging from the difficulties of 2020. And that's a nice, oh, well, I was going to say a nice little shot. He's actually overcut it. Well, dear, oh dear. He opened up the reds nicely. He wasn't actually on a colour, but the red stayed out anyway. Where's the cue ball?
1.
Wow, mighty close to dropping in, but sadly from Kishan Hirani's point of view, it stays up. And if O'Sullivan can drop this pink in, he could be on his way to victory. That was a better shot than it looked. And now, with the reds pretty invitingly spread, the writing could already be on the wall here for Hirani.
8.
O'Sullivan plays his remaining 2 matches this evening. He's first up this evening, and then he'll play his final match in the last match of the day.
15. 16.
His good friend Liang Wenbo was certainly the man of the 4th day. Fantastic performance from Liang, winning all 3 matches, including a 3-0 hammering of Mark Selby, who barely got a look in the final match.
22.
Good to see Liang playing well again after A couple of seasons in the doldrums.
23.
Well, frankly, it will be a surprise if O'Sullivan doesn't go on to make a match-winning contribution here. Just about on this red.
37. 38. 44. 45. 49. 50.
Well, this is the third frame. O'Sullivan's already made a century and a 50. This is his second half century of this match. Not too shabby, really, is it? For a guy who's not played for 3 months.
58.
I guess some might have been surprised that O'Sullivan chose to enter this event, but I think it just shows that although at times he sounds a little ambivalent about the sport and does miss the odd tournament,
65.
Ultimately this is what he does best, better than anyone else arguably, and when he's been away from it for a while he misses it, and he wants to be back in the thick of it. Well, this frame isn't over yet. 49 is the lead, so O'Sullivan not quite able to close the match out there, but it's a pretty handy advantage with the reds now as they are. One more red and a colour would suffice for O'Sullivan. Not taking any liberties, just keeping things tight inside of victory. He wants those first 3 points safely in the bag. Just having a quick glance at the scoreboard, it is just the one red and any colour, and Hirani would need a snooker. Long way off with that one, caught it way too thick. Now, this is something of a chance for Kishan Hirani. There's nothing on a cushion. The balls are pretty inviting here. And although O'Sullivan's 49 in front, as he shakes his head, bit of a rueful grin there, this is a chance for Hirani to steal the frame.
1.
In fact, you could argue he's now the favourite. with nothing safe. Still got to pot them though, plenty of pressure. One slightly awkward red, closer to the right side
6.
cushion, but should be able to negotiate it. And the colours are, bar the yellow, on their spots.
Seven.
Well,
12.
this would give Hirani a lot of confidence. If he could clear up here, of course, it would keep him in the match as well, because if he could then win the 4th frame, he'd take a point, and that looked highly unlikely a few minutes ago. So, big moments for him. Can he hold himself together here and make a winning clearance in this 3rd frame?
Thirteen.
Sullivan tending to his moustache and wondering if this frame is going to slip through his fingers. Oh, he didn't want the kiss on the pink. That wasn't part of the plan. And now, well, the red remains potable,
18.
but it's clearly missable. So, a good pot required here into the green pocket to keep the chance of the steal alive. No,
Kishan
it
Hirani,
always looked
18.
as though it was going to be catching that near jaw. So Hirani misses the chance to clear up there. He's still in the frame. Toreda's at least run into a safe spot. .31 the difference, 35 on, and that's a good shot from O'Sullivan, holding the cue ball behind the brown. It's not a snooker, but Hirani now with it all to do again. Hanging on by his fingertips at the moment. O'Sullivan looks pretty focused to me, though. Determined to make the most of his decision to play in this event. It is a thin one, but he's got it. Well, Hirani did have a couple of chances, not least in this frame, with the balls invitingly positioned to make the clearance and keep the match alive, but he got an unintended kiss, which took him out of prime position, missed the tricky red into the green pocket. And O'Sullivan, who has played pretty well, a pair of half centuries and the opening salvo of 112, is going to be played 1-1.
10. $13.
Pretty satisfactory beginning to O'Sullivan's bid for this Championship League title. He'll next be in action in match 4, the first one this evening, against Michael Giorgio, the former shootout
70.
champion, who's next up against Chris Wakelin for his first match.
$22.
Well, it's great to see snooker back on Eurosport. It's great to see O'Sullivan back on the snooker table on Eurosport.
28.
And he's made a pretty impressive return to action.